Hello, this is Patience, and I am responding to your post, Joundry, about your crisis experience with the fire. And I want to respond to the fact that you observed that a crisis can be idiosyncratic, kind of specific to the individual. And although it may look like the same for everybody, for a specific person, it has special meaning, maybe even special triggers. And you mentioned the fact that you had had an experience with a fire before at 3 years of age, which maybe nobody else had had before. And to me, the reflection I take from this is that the interventionist has to make sure that they're not bunching everybody up under the same umbrella. They might be facing the same situation, maybe they are from the same race, but we need to know those, he called it, in our main text, he called it the emic dimension of the individual that makes them unique, such that they are looked at for how they stand out. And so the way you see them and their story changes because of that as well. I was thinking about perhaps how God builds in the ability to trust Him, because you talked about the opportunities that came from that, the ability to trust Him, that if He took you through that experience as a 3-year-old, He was able to take care of you also in your experience with the fire as a grown-up. As an interventionist, I would invite the person that is going through a situation like that to talk about what living this experience another time, what it means to them and how they plan to cope with it. Thank you so much, Joundry. My second response is to Rosa. Rosa, you cited the way that you dealt with the experience with your daughter, that you had a response of uncertainty avoidance because of what you had experienced yourself. And it was your way of trying to protect your daughter from going through the same thing that you went through. When I visit our main text, I can see that cultures that practice uncertainty avoidance, they set up rules and regulations so that they can kind of count for all those things that they feel could happen, although they do not know when they will happen or how they will happen. So it is their way of preparation. So I could identify with that from the text. I also identify how this, according to the text, involves trying to cover all the possible scenarios with rules and regulations so that nothing takes you by surprise. I could identify that in what you had talked about. Thank you for sharing how this opportunity, how this crisis that happened was an opportunity for you to realize that your daughter had her own boundaries, she had her own decisions that she could take. I am relating this to our main text that talks about giving the individual the responsibility, not trying to do things for them or to be overly helpful, but at the same time being available to help when they need it, to the degree that we are supposed to help them as interventionists. Relating this to scripture, I am seeing the way that God gives us the free will to decide. And when He mentions in His word, I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Then he tells us choose life. That is what comes to my mind when I read your submission. Thank you so much, Rosa.